For almost 20 years, Dorney Park in Allentown, Pennsylvania has waited for a new ground-up roller coaster, and in 2024, the park's wishes will finally be answered. Early in the morning on August 10th, 2023, Dorney Park announced Iron Menace, a new-gen B&M Dive coaster themed to an abandoned steel mill. Personally, I am so excited for the park and Lehigh Valley overall that the wait is finally over. In this video, I'll be providing an in-depth look into Iron Menace from its layout, theming, significance, and much more. This is the official analysis of Iron Menace on Coaster John. That's right, folks, Dorney's new coaster has finally been announced, and its name is Iron Menace. Months ago, plans were submitted by the park to the Whitehall Township Planning Committee, and based on those detailed blueprints, many people with way too much time on their hands determined that this was very likely going to be a B&M Dive coaster. And to those diehard roller coaster fanatics, we thank you, because you were spot on. Dorney went all out with the marketing of this ride, and had been teasing this ride for about a month before the official announcement, coining the phrase, "Forge your own fate." They also released numerous teaser videos filmed at Steel Stacks in Bethlehem, all but confirming that the ride would be steel mill themed in honor of the Lehigh Valley's prominent steel industry. The videos also revealed that the ride was centered around a man named Hiram McTavish, accompanied by an intricate MT logo, which I theorized could also be TM and stand for Thrill Mill or Terror Mill. When the time came for the official ride announcement, however, my predictions were wrong, and Dorney decided on the name Iron Menace, which I actually love. Though it is extremely reminiscent of Steel Vengeance in both the name and the logo, I think it really aligns with the Cedar Fair naming convention, while also complementing rather than competing with its neighbor, Steel Force. I mean, come on, they definitely couldn't have had another coaster with steel in its name, so this was the perfect alternative. The news of Iron Menace is huge for Dorney Park because it will be the first ground-up roller coaster coming to Dorney since Hydra in 2005. This excludes the defunct inverted boomerang Stinger, which operated from 2013 to 2017, as well as Possessed in 2008, which was just a relocation. Iron Menace made its media debut in multiple very well-edited hype videos and POVs, sporting what the press release calls Umbra Gray supports and Amber Red track, which look amazing. To me, the track looks a little more like a burnt orange, but I'm mildly colorblind, so what do I know? But yeah, the color palette is perfect for the theme of the ride, while also setting it apart from the other coasters in the park. Iron Menace's ride stats are pretty standard with the small track B&M Dives, with a couple little things that set it apart from the rest. Iron Menace has a length of 2,169 feet, 661 meters, will stand at 160 feet, 48 meters tall, and feature a beyond vertical 95-degree drop that nosedives riders 152 feet, or 46 meters. Iron Menace will hit a top speed of 64 miles per hour, 102 kilometers per hour, and flip through 4 inversions, including an Immelman after the first drop, a barrel roll over the station, or more or less a zero-G roll, a tilted or inclined loop, which according to Dorney is the first of its kind on the dive coaster, as well as a corkscrew before turning into the final brakes. Iron Menace will feature the rare straight section at the top of the lift like Baron 1898 at Efteling, or even more like flying Apsaras in Western Region at Happy Valley. This is opposed to a turnaround at the top of the lift found on most other dive coasters. Iron Menace's 160-foot height will make it 10 feet taller than the last narrow track dive coaster installed, Dr. Diabolical's Cliffhanger at Six Flags Fiesta Texas, while also sporting the same 95-degree steepness and drop. Though that ride's layout is slightly longer, Iron Menace will not feature a mid-course brake run, which should make it run comparably to Emperor at SeaWorld San Diego, which is exciting because I've heard really good things about that coaster. The shorter layout on Iron Menace is a shame, but hopefully with no mid-course, it should fly through all of its elements. Even though I don't expect Iron Menace to be the new #1 coaster in the park, I do expect it to be yet another solid thrill ride added to Dorney's collection. If Iron Menace runs well and has a good amount of theming, I would expect it to crack my top 3 in the park, just behind Steel Force and Talon, but we'll just have to wait and see. Riders will forge their own fate between 2 trains with 7 across seating over 3 rows, with a capacity of 21 riders per train. That should hopefully make the ridership about 1,000 riders per hour, but that might be generous. In classic Dorney fashion, the new dive coaster also looks to feature bins for loose articles, so let's hope that they stick with that instead of requiring lockers. Iron Menace will also interact with its surroundings very well too. First off, this brand new coaster is going to be the first thing that guests see when they pull up to the park, since the parking lot access road runs right next to it, and will be very easy to spot from Route 222 passing by the park. This thing is going to create so much buzz once it's built, even for non-coaster people. Iron Menace's lift and first drop are also positioned to give the best possible view of Dorney, in my opinion. Looking out over the entire park, riders should be able to see all of the other coasters at Dorney, from CoasterForce on the left all the way over to Talon on the right. Let's not forget that it's built right next to Possessed, which should hopefully duel every once in a while like the POV shows. I'm so grateful that the park switched gears from the planned shuttle wooden coaster, which would have required the removal of Possessed, so now Dorney will upgrade to 8 coasters instead of plateauing at 7. Plus, Possessed is a great thrill coaster and the only launch in the park, so you gotta hold on to that as long as possible. Lastly, the ride that comes closest to Iron Menace is the Zephyr train ride, which quite literally runs through Iron Menace's layout. The Iron Menace station will be built on top of Zephyr's track, and Zephyr will now go through a tunnel underneath the steel mill structure. Iron Menace's tilted loop and corkscrew also go over Zephyr's track, so guests riding the train should be able to get amazing views of Iron Menace. According to interviews conducted by Coaster Studios and New Jersey Coasters, Dorney Park's PR and marketing director Ryan Eldridge claimed that the animations of Iron Menace are very basic depictions of what the ride and whole area will end up looking like, which is great news because that was one of my biggest concerns when watching the ride footage. Yes, there appear to be some theming, with the station looking like an abandoned building, as well as very generic apocalypse-style rubble placed throughout the layout, but Ryan Eldridge confirmed what I had hoped, that Iron Menace will in fact be very well themed.
I think that this is going to be the best themed area of the park when it's all said and done. We'll have a big announcement in September that's about the Halloween haunt attraction that I'm sure you're going to ask about that is tied to the ride. I can say that now. We're taking a look at Cedar Creek Flyers and how do we theme that out? How do we make that different? Do we rename it? Things are going to look different down there. The queue area and the station are going to be designed to look and feel like a 1930s abandoned steel facility. So you can see some of what the conceptual idea is in the actual POV, but from what I understand, that is like the most basic. It's almost like we just took the ride and plopped it in there. There's going to be even more theming to go along with everything.
Even if you look at the POV that we're going to put out that is computer generated and it's animation, you can see kind of what we anticipate the station to look like in the most basic sense. And then certainly we're going to theme it out more extensively. Folks who come to our Halloween haunt kind of know what our entertainment and maintenance team are capable of. We have merch shops and dining and all of that stuff right now is on the table to be rethemed, and a lot of it is going to be reminiscent of our rich industrial history here in Pennsylvania.
Hopefully that expectation can actually be met, but it looks like Dorney is already teasing another announcement in September, which should be what Ryan alluded to, that the whole area, Cedar Creek Flyers included, would be rethemed, along with a new haunt attraction that will match the area theme as well. The backstory of Iron Menace goes as follows. In the early 1900s, Scottish businessman Hiram S. McTavish opened McTavish Steel Mill, a direct competitor to Bethlehem Steel Company. Greed dictated McTavish's every move, and he was well known to prioritize profits above people. With an eye on maximizing output, McTavish created a massive hauler he dubbed Iron Menace, a device the steel industry had never seen. The rail transporter moved workers and ore at record volumes and dizzying speeds. Suddenly, the greedy steel baron mysteriously disappeared. No one knows how or where. Shortly after, McTavish Steel Mill closed. All that remains today are the mill's decrepit shell, rusty relics, and wild tales of the owner's whereabouts. So yeah, that's a whole lot more of a backstory than any of the other coasters that Dorney have, and should certainly be backed up by intricate theming, as it really was a dead area in the park. I myself have never even walked back to Cedar Creek Flyers, but I certainly will now that construction has begun for Iron Menace. Like Eldridge strongly suggested, I really hope that the park does go through with retheming Cedar Creek Flyers because they stick out like a sore thumb in the animations. I'd love to see Dorney go even one step further and maybe repaint, retheme, and even rename Possessed to something that makes more sense over there too, along with adding more flat rides near the Flyers. Now, I don't expect this to happen this year necessarily, but maybe a year or two down the line would be great. It's extremely promising that Cedar Fair is finally showing some love to their smaller parks like Worlds of Fun with Zambezi Zinger and now Dorney with Iron Menace. The future certainly looks bright for other neglected parks like Valley Fair and Michigan's Adventure. It's also great to see Cedar Fair spruce up their profitable but bland parks like Jungle Expedition at Kings Dominion, the Boardwalk at Cedar Point, Adventure Port at Kings Island, and my personal favorite, Aeronautica Landing at Carowinds. All those areas really build up the standard of what a theme park should be, and it's looking like Dorney Park will be benefiting from Cedar Fair's change in identity as well, so I'm all here for it. One last great thing about Iron Menace, I really love the slogan, "Forge Your Own Fate," which should be featured somewhat prominently throughout the ride, and maybe even on the ride sign. If that's the case, Dorney would have 3 coasters with subtitles: Iron Menace, Forge Your Own Fate, Hydra, the Revenge, and Talon, the Grip of Fear. At that rate, Dorney should consider putting subtitles on all the coasters, including but not limited to Steel Force, Full Metal Coaster, Possessed, Lose Your Soul, Thunderhawk, Wild Mouse, Wilder and Mousier, or even Woodstock Express, Snoopy's Revenge. The possibilities are endless. With that lengthy joke out of the way, what do you think of Iron Menace? Do you think Dorney should have gone with another ride model? And if so, why? Personally, I think that any addition at Dorney would have been good at this point, but let me know if you agree or disagree. If you haven't already, please like the video to help other coaster fans see it. Consider subscribing to Coaster John and hitting that notifications bell for more Iron Menace coverage. Until next time, this has been Coaster John. Ride on.